Because if you don't allow, you can keep pushing, and the universe is going to say, go ahead, keep pushing all you want. Waste your energy, get sick, go ahead. Have you learned yet? Most people haven't learned. So we're here to say, hey, try this tip. Did you push record?
Thanks so much again for tuning into our second act with Paige and Silka.
For your second act of life. Hey, Silka.
Hi, Paige. Paige, today we have a topic that really hits close to home for me. You know, I'm a person that I consider myself a high achiever. I'm always going. And a lot of times it just ain't working. And you brought up, as usual, when we have these conversations, you brought up a really good point. And you said, you know what? Maybe it's not about just going. Maybe it's about allowing. Tell me what you mean by that, or tell our viewers what you mean by that, because I think this is a great point.
So, we come from the baby boomer population. And think about it. In the 80s, it was about we did it all. We thought we did it all.
Yeah.
We did it all. We were superheroes. We were superwomen, supermen. We could multitask, blah, 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 blah. And we burnt right out. So, we've come from a generation of we do, we push. But what if the doing and the pushing isn't really what's helping you? What if instead of you constantly pushing and doing, if you gently bring in the notion of allowing, imagine that, trusting and allowing the pieces to fall wherever they're supposed to fall, and trusting that you will get the information that you need. And maybe, just maybe, you won't have to control other people. You won't have to control situations. You won't push so hard that you burn out with your body. Because let's face it, after 50, the body's been through a lot. So maybe it's time to allow a little bit more, save your energy, save your adrenals, which is your stress gland.
I worn those out.
Right. And start to take care of your health, your physical health, your emotional health, your mental health. If we just try and bring in a little bit of allowing a situation to occur, whether you use that with a new career, a new relationship, with your kids, whatever it might be, I'd like our viewers to start to practicing allowing, because when we start to freak out and control, it's like, oh my gosh, if I don't step in and do this and control the situation or push harder, it's not going to work out for me. Who says? What if you step back and allow things to fall into place and you don't exert the same amount of energy? See what happens then, because it's been my experience with the work that I do through the decades that allowing is just as important as pushing and finding the boundary and the balance between the two. But if you've never had allowing come in, you got to practice that first.
Well, and this is, as we said in the beginning, a great message for those of us who are trying to recreate or, are starting a new relationship, etc. And I can totally identify with that. I try to if I'm in the middle of something or I'm writing an email and then I'll send it and then, oh no, I should have added something, and instead of waiting until maybe the person emails back, I'll send something. I'll send 3 emails. And by then you frustrate yourself, you frustrate the other person, whether it's, again, relationships, business, whatever. And I think that's obviously what you mean is allow stuff to happen. That's hard to do for me.
Right. And if you think about it, for anybody out there who's in a new relationship, if you don't hear back from the person, or, oh my gosh, why aren't we doing this? Try something different. Just allow things to fall out, because if you start to push too hard, you're not going to see how the other person responds. You're not going to see how the situation folds out. If you happen to be, in our age population and you have adult kids, have your kids said to you, would you stop controlling and getting involved? I'm sure you've heard that. So what would happen if you stepped back and you just allowed your adult child to follow their own path? You don't have to keep jumping in there. Or if you're in a relationship with your significant other or your spouse, if you happen to be someone who tried to control things in a relationship, what would happen if you stepped back and allowed people to have some breathing room, some space to breathe, whether it's your adult children, your grandchildren, your significant other, parts of your career, if you just trusted and tried bringing this in for some balance instead of pushing and having to control, you would start to see that, wow, this something bigger happens here. And I'm not as exhausted. And I don't have to figure it all out 24/7.
Well, and on our previous segment, which we'll link to as well, we talked about how do you know if your soul is guiding you or your greater self is guiding you, and maybe we talked about inspiration and stuff like this. But when things aren't working out for you and you're working so hard, maybe that's your greater self guiding you as well, or stopping you from creating something that isn't in your best interest. What do you
The
say?
synergy's not happening. You're pushing, 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 and you need to stop and be, not do. Just stop and be. Timing is everything. Getting connected to yourself is everything. Paying attention to the messages and allowing things to unfold naturally. Because if you're always jumping in, you'll never see the beauty of what happens naturally. And maybe what happens naturally is going to put you on your next step, whether it's career, relationships, whatever it might be, health issues, whatever it might be.
So then how do you know the difference, or how do you evaluate the difference between, just sitting back and sloughing everything off and putting a plan into action? Where is that balance?
If you're somebody who's always put plans into action, you already know how to do that. You're good at that. My guess is, and my knowing is, you're probably not that good at what the heck is allowing. So allowing is put your plan into action. Step back and allow the pieces to unfold. And the minute something comes up, are you someone who wants to jump right in? Okay, wait a minute, I have to do something. Sit back a little bit. Give it 24 hours, 48 hours, 2 days, 2 weeks. Try something different. We all know this. Insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. So pay attention to that. Let's bring in a little bit of allowing to the balance of your strategic plan, or you're trying to get to that next step. You have to allow in many ways, because if you don't allow, you can keep pushing and the universe is going to say, go ahead, keep pushing all you want. Waste your energy, get sick, go ahead. Have you learned yet? Most people haven't learned. So we're here to say, hey, try this tip and see if this helps you a little bit more. Let's bring in some allowing to the forcing and the pushing and the controlling that you're doing. And I promise you, you will have a feeling of, oh, I can breathe a little bit more.
I'd like to breathe a little bit more. Breathing is good.
Yes, yes.
Well, is there, in closing, any tip to recognize when you absolutely are doing too much, and or just say, okay, I'm going to step back and I'm going to allow? How do I just cue myself to?
Well, you have to be conscious to know how often you are pushing and controlling out of fear and anxiety, because that's where it comes from. The fear of, oh my God, I'm not going to get what I want, or the anxiousness of, oh my gosh, there's not enough to go around. So first you have to be aware of this is coming from fear and anxiety. And once you're aware of that, challenge yourself to go, okay, there's a situation that's coming up. I'm going to challenge myself now. And I'm going to go, you know what? I'm going to sit back and allow it to happen. And you might be sweating all over, a nervous wreck, but just sit back and allow and trust to see where the pieces unfold.
I'm going to do exactly that, Paige.
Okay, so I follow up with you to make sure you follow these things.
Oh, it's always fun talking to you, and I hope that if you have any questions, or this hits home with you, leave us your comments. Make sure you subscribe to our channel, and we will see you next time on Our Second Act with Paige and Silka.
For your second act of life.
Bye-bye. Glad you were able to join us today. For more information about living your life to the fullest after 50, please visit our website, secondact.tv. And if you haven't already done so, be sure to subscribe to our channel. Button's right over here. See you next time. Bye.